going on? Blossom is back, and welcome back to another episode of Top Drives and another episode of the Moneymaker series. Now we are entering royalty status. We are entering business class. Okay, business class isn't really royalty, because if you're royalty, you would fly in your own plane now, would you? But anyway, we are entering the very, very important category of the epic moneymakers. Now, all the series that you saw before, rares, uncommon, super rares, not really ultra rares, those cars, a lot of the cars from those series, you would hear me say things like, oh, this is really useful as a moneymaker because it gets me a lot of value for very little RQ, and you know, cars that I want to save RQ to use the big boys. These are the big boys. You know, some of those cars that I use in the uncommon ranges, like for example, the Pulsar, not the Pulsar, sorry, the Nissan Leaf, or the Chevy Extreme, or even the Nissan Micra. All those cars are useful because yes, they bring a lot of value, but they also save you a lot of RQ. So if you find yourself in clubs and the requirement and the limit is about RQ 300, RQ 330, you know, you want to use those uncommons so you can save more RQ to use these bangers right here. These are the cars that are going to win you the points, okay? So we're going to be talking about epic prize cars. These are the cars that really get me excited. When you think about it, the epic prize car list, much like every other list that you see in this series, is basically Blossom Choice expanded. You're going to see a lot of reoccurring faces from Blossom Choice if you know your Blossom Choice cars, and then I'm going to add a lot more cars into them because of their little niches here and there. So before we get into today's video, as I always do in this series, let's talk about what you're going to see a lot in clubs and what you're never going to see in clubs. So requirements that you're always going to see in clubs are going to be front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, 5-seater, saloon the country from the big six. At this point, you guys should know what the requirements are, because if you've seen every episode in this series, then they're all the same. All surface tires, because you know clubs never change. Standard tires, performance tires, petrol, 2-seaters, and anything from Italian Renaissance and before. And for things that you never see in clubs, because this is a game mode that Hutch will never ever touch. Maybe they might touch it when I'm like 45, who knows. But yeah, for uncommon niches, basically stuff that never shows up in clubs, we have ×5 4-seaters, country from the non-big six, 1-seaters, electric, hybrid, and other fuels, European Revolution, basically anything after Italian Renaissance, 5 times coupe, 5 times estate, 5 times hot hatch, all that kind of stuff. And of course, when it comes to additional niches, back to the good stuff, because I forgot to talk about that this time, is if your car is medium, it has off-road tires, it handles, or it is a specialist, usually a drag specialist, because drags are where you win the most points. But anyway, let's talk about the money makers. Now, obviously, I am an American collector, I'm a Dodge collector, and I get very excited when I unpack a Dodge, or basically any good American car when it comes to a 1 mil pack opening. But there are some instances where I would unpack a car that isn't in my category of niches. I might even unpack a car, an epic, that isn't even a car that I like a French one, but I still get very excited. No, I'm not being fake. I'm being really excited because I can acknowledge that this car is going to win me a lot of money, and one example of the situation is going to be the Peugeot 207 S2000 or the Peugeot 208 T16 R5. Both French cars. I don't like French cars. I know if you're watching and your name is so Fanny, Val, or Oliver, you might think that I actually love Peugeot, but I do not. But I do recognize that this is a cash cow, or this is a cash cow, or these are cash cows, English, and that's why I get very excited when I get them, because I know they can fund me a lot more 1 mil pack openings in the future. But anyway, let's talk about the cash cows. Now, I'm splitting this into 2 parts. I'm showing you the non-prize cars, and I'm going to show you the prize car cash cows, just because the prize car cash cows, they're kind of self-explanatory, and if you don't have them and you're watching this video, they're not really going to help you. But I'll show you the prize car epic cash cows after I show you, you know, the non-ones. So let's begin. The Range Rover 5.0 V8. Why is this here? Okay, the Range Rover 5.0 V8 is because it is able to kill the G63 and also the Trailblazer SS. And when you talk about the when you talk about the ultra rare meta, when it comes to drag off-road, not even off-road tires, just drag off-road in general, because off-road tires are usually not the best dragsters when it comes to the lower rarities. Legendary is a different story. But when it comes to the ultra rare meta, you only think of the G63 and from 2016 and the Trailblazer SS. And when you have a Range Rover 5.0 in this car that is able to beat both for such a cheap RQ, this is the lowest you can get for an epic. It's actually a really good bargain. It has a good top speed for an SUV and a low 0 to 60. It is a basically, it's the car that you want to use to beat ultra rares. A lot of these 65s are cars that you use to beat ultra rares anyway. The Peugeot 306 Maxi is the same story. You're using this to beat the Volkswagen TCR. You're using this to beat the Suzuki Swift. It's just a little better, but you can guarantee the value from this no matter what. What gives 65 epics in top drives a bad reputation is that a lot of 65 epics have a tendency to lose to ultra rares in some track sets. But what sets the Peugeot 306, the Range Rover, and these other 65s that you're going to see aside is they're always going to beat ultra rares in those track sets, and they might even beat higher RQ epics as well. Same thing for the Nissan Bluebird. This thing was absolutely fantastic. You want to kill a Colorado, you want to kill a Lancia 037, say no more, use a Nissan Bluebird SSSR. So those three are definitely going to be cash cows. Amazing when it comes to, outside of clubs, but obviously the series is mainly about making money in clubs, and when it comes to clubs, those things are amazing. The Chevrolet Mirai is the same thing as well. It's basically like a heavy Desire, but it's also four-wheel drive. It has a very low 0 to 60, really good handling, and it's a great twisty car. Just don't put it on a slalom because it is relatively heavy. And then the Cadillac XT5, this one's a hot take. This is only a cash cow for me. It's not going to be a cash cow for you, but it's going to be a cash cow for me, and that's why I put it in the series. I feel like I have to honor it just because this thing has won me millions. The main thing why it has won me millions is because the XC5 used to be an ultra rare. I maxed it out as an ultra rare, and when you get an all-surface tire car, it's such a cheap RQ for epics, with 85 handling and a relatively low 0 to 60, it's a really versatile car for me. So whenever there's all-surface tire events or a Cadillac event or a USA off-road event where you don't need to use off-road tires, because there might be some mixed track sets, then the XT5 is definitely one of the first cars that jump into my mind. So this one's more personal. The XT5 is more personal, but everything else are definitely cash cows. The Peugeot 208 and 207, they go hand in hand. One has better MRA, one is more better handling. So this is the one that you want to put on like the fast circuit. This is the one that you want to put on the twisty road and the slalom and the G-force. But both of them are absolutely fantastic. When it's four-wheel drive in clubs and it's all dry, those two are going to save you a lot. And then the M3 CSL as well. As long as this thing stays medium ground clearance, it's going to be one of the best medium ground clearance bargain savers in the game, because not only is it medium, it has 97 handling when you max it out. When you think about it, it's that Renault Megane trophy on steroids, right? The M3 CSL is fantastic. Now, the main reason why I talk about this car, I always say as long as it has medium, is because I do have a feeling that in the future update, this is probably going to go low. I don't think it actually is medium. When you think about it, like all the other BMWs that Hutch has, effed around with have all been medium in the past, in 2017, 2018, and then with further updates into the game, they all go low. Examples would be my M3 GTS, the prize car that used to be medium, now it's low. So the M3 CSL might suffer the same fate, but as for now, as of the day I'm uploading this video and recording this video, the M3 CSL is still medium and it still handles really well, and therefore it's going to be a great bargain for city streets and city living when it comes to clubs. It's also going to be great for twists and turns because it handles so incredibly well. You have the Maybach 57S. This is one of the epics that I want to max out next. It might even be the next epic I choose to max out. This is basically the Cadillac 16 if you cannot use the Cadillac 16. Now the Cadillac 16 is RQ86, so RQ87, 86, around that range, so it's a lot more expensive to use than the Maybach, and this is going to kill the ultra rare Maybach. Basically, this category of car, this niche is only comprised of three cars: the ultra rare Maybach, the epic Maybach, which is the 57S, and then the Cadillac 16. So yeah, it's a dragster for standard tire events. It has medium ground clearance, so you can use it on Ocean City streets if you want. Great MRA, high top speed, and a low 0 to 60. That's all it is to it. Moving on is the Infiniti Emerge E, slightly better version of the Ford, Ford Mustang SVT Cobra. It handles just as well, has a lower 0 to 60. It is quite heavy, so don't put it on a slalom, but when you think about it, it's basically a rear-wheel drive, better twisty version of the Mirai. But then again, you can't really compare the Emerge and the Mirai, because the Mirai you can also deploy it on the wet. For the Emerge, you probably don't want to put it on the wet. And then we have the Dodge Charger RT Scat Pack. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, Blossom, it's a Dodge Charger. That's why there's a bias to it. That's why it's in the list. No, trust me. The Dodge Charger RT Scat Pack is actually a bit of a moneymaker. I'm not even joking, because here's the thing. Think about the saloon meta, okay? Saloon and 5-seater. Saloon and 5-seater shows up in clubs all the time. So you want to have a good saloon, a good 5-seater, especially a max epic. That's gonna, guarantee you wins and get you higher positions and more money. The Dodge Charger RT Scat Pack is actually really, really useful because it has a very interesting niche where it is a very, very cheap in terms of epic. Okay, when it comes to epic RQs, it's cheap. RQ67 that is a saloon and that is low in ground clearance. When you think about it, most saloons that are epic at this RQ are like Mitsubishis, maybe even Subarus, and all of them are 4-wheel drive, all of them are medium. So, the 4-wheel drive and the medium kind of boost their RQ a bit, but their performance isn't anywhere as close as what the Charger provides. 4.10 to 60, 83 handling and a very high top speed, mediocre MRA. This isn't really a dragster. This is actually more of a hybrid car, even verging towards like semi-twisty. Not slalom, not G-force, but maybe twisty circuit, hairpin road, that kind of stuff. So more of a hybrid slash twisty car, but it is actually very useful because saloon and 5-seater events show up in clubs all the time, and not every day you're going to see City Living and and Dragon City. And even if you get City Living and Dragon City, only 2 of the track sets are going to be City Streets medium. And if the requirements is ×5 saloon or ×5 5-seater, you're going to need 5 of them, and then 5 of the track sets are going to be, if 2 of the track sets are City Streets medium, then 3 of them you don't need medium ground clearance cars to use, so you can use a low ground clearance car, and this is where the Charger RT comes in if you want to save some RQ. You see what I mean? There is a niche around the Scat Pack. It has decent stats for its RQ, but the main thing about it is that it is a saloon with low ground clearance. That's the thing. And it makes it special because the niche that it operates in are usually saloons with medium ground clearance and worse performance for the same RQ. I hope that made sense. Anyway, moving on to RQ68 is the Ford F-150. This one's a bit more of a personal one. 4-wheel drive off-road tires, handles pretty well. You can't go wrong with that. Obviously, there's a better Raptor, but then again, this car has been a personal cash cow to me. So kind of like the Cadillac XT5, but unlike the Cadillac XT5, if you unpack this now, today, I would still condone it if you want to max it out because it's still a really, really good car. And then with the Volvo S80, I want to cut this out. I don't want to cut this out. I want to kind of kill 4 birds with 1 stone here, okay? So the Volvo S80, the Volkswagen CC, the Volkswagen Phaeton, and the Volkswagen Arteon. All of them are in here because they are all the same thing. They're all 4-wheel drive, they're all standard tires, they're all medium ground clearance, and they all handle very well. The Phaeton has like slightly okay MRA, so it handles a little less than the rest of the 4 cars here, but the MRA is a little better, so the RQ is a little higher, blah blah blah. But all of these cars are basically the same. They all handle well, they're all 4-wheel drive, they're all standard. You use them in the rain for saloon events and they're gonna give you value. And it's the same thing for the Cyclone, it's just that this isn't an SUV. This isn't a saloon. It's not even an SUV either, it's a pickup truck anyway. But then again, really good handling, and this is actually a car that I could love to use on standard dry. The main thing is because it has a very low 0 to 60. So because of that, standard dry, hybrid tracks, twisty tracks, it's a pretty good one to use. And then the Abarth 124, there are going to be a couple cars like the Abarth that you're going to see in this list. The first one is this because yes, it has decent performance, actually pretty good for RQ70, but the main reason why it is a cash cow is because of how often Fiat ×5 shows up in clubs and how often Italian ×5 shows up in clubs. So because of that, the Abarth 124 Spider is going to be a great car for Italian clubs and Fiat clubs. And you can also save some RQ in Italian ×5. Let's say that the RQ is maybe RQ465 or maybe 450. Yeah, you can put in like 3 legendaries, but you might want to save a little bit of RQ with using a lower end epic so you can fit in maybe 4 legendaries. So the Abarth 124 Spider is actually a pretty decent one to use. Moving on is the Jaguar XJ13, very situational car whenever it's clubs pre-70s. This is one of the best cars for you to use because it's a very low 0 to 60, high top speed, and decent handling. And then we have these two. I'm going to kill these two with 1 stone as well. The Mercedes AMG CLK DTM and the Spiker C8. Both of them are amazing. They both kill Hellcats. That's the thing. They both kill Hellcats. It's a shame that ×5 convertible is not a niche that you see in clubs. I would love to see that more often because if it was, it would basically boost up the value of these two cars. And the value of these two cars are already very, very high. They both have insane MRA, low 0 to 60s, high top speeds. They're both dragsters. And of course, we have the better Raptor. And then, you know how we talked about the 4-wheel drive saloon, standard tire cars? Now, we have the DS numero 9. The only problem with the DS numero 9 is that it's not a saloon, but it's still standard tires. It handles the best with a low 0 to 60, and if I do believe myself correctly, it is indeed a 5-seater. So you still can use it in 5-seater events, but not in saloon events. But yeah, anything rain twisty DS numero 9, whenever it's eligible, is a car you want to use. Suzuki Hayabusa is basically the JPT version of the Mazda Furai. Absolutely fantastic. No slick tires as well, so you can use it in the rain if you want to. But why would you? You would put this in a twisty environment, and it saves you, more RQ than the Furai. The Furai is a bit more expensive to use at 79. Moving on is the Lotus 211. Well, we're going to talk about the twisty cars, shall we? And the Donkerboard D8 270. So all these cars are just great twisty cars. If it's Japanese twists and turns, Hayabusa or the Furai. If it's Lotus 211, Lotus 211. If it's ×5 British twists and turns, I would use the Lotus 211 and the Super Lights. And of course, if it's just twists and turns in general, petrol ×5, rear wheel drive ×5, I would use the D8 270 because that is going to send both the 211 and the Hayabusa. Okay, not really, no, I wouldn't say Gapplebees because the times between these cars are very, very close, but the Donkervert is the best one to use. The Jaguar I-Pace, fantastic, low 0 to 60, decent MRA, 4-wheel drive standard tires. And then the M3 CS. To be completely honest, the M3 CS is probably one of the best cars to use in clubs. If I ever did like an Oscars but for clubs, first of all, it'll be cars, so there'll be no Will Smith slapping anybody, but second of all, the M3 CS will definitely be winning a lot of awards. This is one of my most used club cars ever because it is an Evo 10 killer. It genuinely is an Evo 10 because it provides the same thing as the Evo 10. Well, it operates in very similar situations as the Evo 10. They're both saloons, and they both have low 0 to 60s, and they both handle very, very well. The Evo 10, obviously, you want to use it on city streets medium. Obviously, you want to put it on, wet events because it has 4-wheel drive. But if it is a 5-seater event, if it is a saloon event, I would choose the M3 CS. If there's no medium ground clearance, I would choose the M3 CS over the Evo 10 because the M3 CS has that MRI, it has that 0 to 60, it just has that slight edge over the Evo 10. But obviously they do operate in different areas. The problem with comparing the M3 CS and the Evo 10 is that they operate in so many categories, and that's what makes those cars so good. But in those categories that they operate in, they also overlap in many of them. So yeah, you will see events where the M3 and the Evo 10 are actually overlapped very often, but very, very, very fantastic car. I've maxed both of them. I have two. I've maxed both, and that wasn't even for a tri-series. So to spend 30 ultra rares to max 2 epics just for clubs, it's got to tell you, man, it's a very, very special car. The Subaru Impreza Cosworth, once again, I'm only putting it here for Subaru events. It is a standout because it has really good performance, no medium ground clearance, so it's not kind of in that dime a dozen where it's like every other Subaru. There's something special that makes it stand out. It has better performance, and because of that low ground clearance, it manages to stay in 77 RQ, because if it had those performance and it was medium ground clearance, it would probably be legendary. Now, moving on is going to be these two French boys, the Peugeots right here. Basically, this is your dragster and this is your French hybrid car. It has a very low 0 to 60, decent handling, 4-wheel drive, medium ground clearance, and it's a 4-seater, which is kind of sad because you're never going to use 4-seaters. But then again, if there's any French events, this is kind of a car that I like to use. If you are in a city streets scenario and you want a little bit more handling over the 908, because as you can see, it's 77 and 79. But this isn't really a car that you want to put on the city streets anyway. This is a dragster by right. It kills Hellcats as well, actually. It's quite sad. Now, moving on is the Pagani C12. This is like the best Italian in my opinion. Great MRA. It's a lightweight car coming in at 1,250 kgs, 4.10 to 60, and amazing handling. The MRA on this, if you're wondering, is about 100. And talking about 100 MRA, the Jaguar XJS, also 100 MRA, also 88 handling. Now, the thing about the Jaguar XJS is kind of in the list, kind of like the Subaru. ×5 Jaguar tends to show up a lot in clubs, and when it does, this is kind of the car that you really want to use. As long as there's no Storm Chaser, there's no Rising Storm, there's no city streets, then this is a car that you can definitely use. Twists and turns, Dragon City, City Living, as long as you put it on the low ground clearance tracks, it's like the drags. Because usually when there's City Living in clubs, there's usually 2 city streets medium, but there's a lot of drags. as well. So the XJS TWR is a fantastic card to use for Jag events. And then you have the Dodge Durango SRT, and you have the X3 M40i. These are my go-to all-surface tire cars. They both handle very well, and they both have very low 0 to 60s. The X3, I do believe, has better MRI than the Durango. The Durango has no MRI. It's actually kind of sad. I mean, it shouldn't have no MRI. It's a Dodge, for crying out loud. That being said, though, also 87 handling on a Durango is kind of suspect. But hey, I'll take it for now. Now, moving on, we have the Dodge Charger SRT Hellcat. Now, obviously, we've talked about a lot of Hellcat killers already. We talked about the Peugeot. We talked about the CLK DTM, and we talked about the Spiker. But one thing that the Charger has over those 3 cars I just mentioned is that it is a saloon and a 5-seater. Yeah, because I know this is a saloon as well, but it is a 4-seater. Haha! So if there's a 5-seater event, you can use the Charger. If there's a saloon event, you can use the Charger. It just makes it a little bit more versatile, and it is still a fantastic dragster by right. Amazing car for the quarter mile, an amazing car for the half mile, the 1 mile, the test bowl, high top speed, great MRI, low 0 to 60. It doesn't even handle that bad, to be honest. Fantastic car. Charger Hellcat definitely up there. And then we have the diesel boys, with the Audi SQ5 and the Bentayga diesel. This is my go-to dragster all-surface tire car, if I can use like as many RQ as I can, because obviously we talked about the Range Rover, that's the low RQ dragster. Then we have the high RQ dragster in the Bentley Bentayga diesel, and then of course this is like your OG, like, you know, 90 handling 4-wheel drive all-surface tires. Yeah, this thing haunts me. I've unpacked a lot of high RQ Audis, but this one I just can't seem to get. I think I've actually unpacked every 79 RQ and above Audi that's an epic. But I can't get the SQ5, for crying out loud. I need that in my garage. It haunts me till this day. The TVR Tuscan race car as well is a bit of a hybrid, has great MRI, low 0 to 60, great handling, a high top speed, very lightweight car. You can use this everywhere. Drag, twisty roads, slalom, G-force, you'll be fine. The only thing that doesn't make this car that amazing, the only thing weighing this car down that kind of keeps it away from being one of the best in the game is, first of all, slick tires. Second of all, it came out after Italian Renaissance. And third of all, it's a TVR, and there's never TVR events in clubs. That being said, though, if it's rear-wheel drive times 5, if it's petrol times 5, then this is a car that you definitely want to use in basically anything. And then, of course, we have the Evo 10. I talked about the Evo 10 already in yesterday's video, or the day before yesterday's video, in the best Japanese car for every RQ. This thing is a menace, okay? I know I would choose the M3 CS over the Evo 10 on anything that requires low ground clearance, or anything that doesn't require medium ground clearance. But, you know, once again, the versatility in this car and the performance that it provides is second to none. Moving on now, Mazda Furai, a better Hayabusa, and then you have the Dodge Viper SRT10. In my opinion, the best hybrid in the entire game for epics. The best epic hybrid in the entire game. It kind of has everything. A low 0 to 60, great handling, high top speed, and great MRI. This is a car that you want to use in Monaco city streets, in Tokyo track sets, like Tokyo Bridge, Tokyo Loop, and what other stuff, Hairpin Road even. Like, this is fantastic. It can pass as a dragster, it can pass as a twisty car, and it will definitely stride in anything in between. Cadillac CT6, 4-wheel drive center tires, medium ground clearance, saloon, 5-seater, great handling, decent MRI as well. Same thing for the 750D. Those two are basically a dime a dozen 4-wheel drive center tire cars. And then we have the BMW M760 and the Bentley Flying Spur. Why need those two cars in my life? Seriously, because they're both saloon with medium ground clearance, and they have low 0 to 60s as well with higher top speeds compared to the dime a dozen Subarus that you see everywhere. I mean, at the end of the day, the Lancer Evo is the king of the crop. So what this is to Japan is this to Germany, is the BMW to Germany, and the Flying Spur to the UK. But obviously the best of the best is the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo. But as you can see, I have a weakness in my garage, don't I? Medium ground clearance, really good performance, saloon cars. I have neither. I don't have either of the three. The Bentley, the BMW, the Mitsubishi. Which one's gonna come first? Comment down below, but I need one in my life. And then the last two would be the Caterham Superlight R500, needs no introduction, and of course, the Banana. And much like the Superlight, it needs no introduction. Those cars are gonna save you a lot of points, or are gonna get you a lot of points. They're not gonna save you a lot of RQ because they're actually expensive. And the last thing I want to talk about are the prize cars. So now we've removed non-prize cars. We go into collections and tags and select prize cars. So here we go. These are the 9 prize cars I've selected to be money makers. First of all, we have the Volvo 850 BTCC for front-wheel drive niches. Fantastic. 100 MRA, decent. 100 handling, decent MRA. And then we have the Aerial Nomad. This is basically the best British car for city streets. It's not an off-roader by any respect, but it's a fantastic dry city streets car. And then we have the Renault Laguna BTCC. This is your best front-wheel drive car, period. Nothing's better than this. So it's going to get you a lot of money, and that's why I maxed out immediately. The Abarth is one of the best medium ground clearance Italian cars as well. Handles very well, 4-wheel drive, very versatile, and a low 0 to 60. Think about it this way. It's like a Chevrolet Murray, but it's medium. So yeah, very, very good. Then we have the Ram Rebel TRX Concept, just a better Ford Raptor. So basically anything off-road, this is the car that you want to use. The CTR Yellowbird, basically, you know, a fantastic dragster, bonkers MRA, low 0 to 60, high top speed. With the MG Metro 6R4, basically this and the TRX will go hand in hand. The Metro is better by almost every regard, but it is medium ground clearance, and the Rebel is high. And the last two is going to be the Chevrolet Camaro ZL11LE. Hurts me that I don't have it. Seriously, I have every single car here besides probably the one I want the most. Not probably. This is the one I want the most. Okay, so it hurts me I don't have that, but yeah, absolutely fantastic car, American hybrid. Now, I said how that the SRT10 is the best epic hybrid. Yeah, non-prize. When it comes to prize cars, the ZL11LE, a lower 0 to 60, better handling, high top speed, great MRA, muscle car. The muscle car thing doesn't really matter when it comes to clubs, but it's fantastic. And then last but not least, we have the better version of the Evo 10. In my opinion, in my very humble opinion, but I am going to say it, I think this is the best car in the game. In terms of just how cheap it is to upgrade, and when I mean cheap, I mean that in quotation marks, because it's a lot cheaper than the Legendary, right? Like, maxing out a Lancer Evo is a lot cheaper than maxing out a Bugatti Chiron Sport, or a Koenigsegg Yamera, or a Rimac 2. So it's cheaper in that respect. And the amount of versatility that the Evo 8 brings to the table, the medium ground clearance, the amazing handling, the low 0 to 60, the 4-wheel drive, the 5-seater niche, the saloon niche, is the best car in the game. I think this is the best car in the game. If you had to ask me what I think is the best car in the game in general in top drives, I would probably tell you is the Evo 8. So anyway, guys, that is going to be my complete complete list for epic money makers in top drives. Let me know down in the comments below if you learned anything, and if you did, consider liking and subscribing. But anyway, I hope you guys have a great day. I'm going to stay safe, wash your hands, and good luck in your packs. Blossom out. Peace.
Bro, this song just makes me so happy.
Me too.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket, looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly. Got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket, looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly. Got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Sit back, relax in my Bonneville Pontiac. Hold tight all night, cruise to Jacksonville
Atlantic.
Blonde hair, don't care, look like Leslie Brooks. Pin up girls everywhere with the drop dead look. Swing it side to side as we slow dance to the night. When I'll hold your perfect hand and take you out just for a ride. We'll share milkshakes at the diner and